Let's go!
So, we're going to take a look at Battleship Bob, playing an E25 game. This is top tier. When this tank's top tier, it's really super good. Very sneaky, stealthy, awesome gun, preferential matchmaking, so it's top tier a fair bit. And Bob's going to play this encounter game. Kind of talk about the good and the bad things that I think he does, that I see. So he's going to start. I like how he's being aggressive. In encounters, you really want to be aggressive on this flank. I think it's not like standard battles where you can just let it come to you. Because if you're going to affect the game, you have to win this flank and then come around the other side. And you have to do that before they give you too much trouble on the actual, the other side of the tracks where the cap is in. As we'll see in this game, the game develops such that you can't really affect the game at the cap until you win the side and get through. But he's sitting here in the Prokhorovka E2 bush, like everybody knows is a very strong location, and this is an extremely stealthy tank. Destroyer, the camo values, I think he sets his up with a crew and everything very similar to mine, so I'm not sure exactly, but I looked at my E25. I have a 4.5 skill crew with Binox and Camo Net and Gunner Rammer. I think he has the same. But the view range with the Binox is like 484 and sub 400 when you're moving. The camo value with the Camo Net activated stationary is 65%, which is crazy, and the firing camo value with the Camo Net on is 23%, which is also just crazy, because a lot of these tanks, you could be at like 300 meters in the open and shooting at them and they won't see you. So Bob's just trying to spot for his team in the initial part of this game. You can see he's not really even looking for shots, which is important to do when you are spotting this location. He's hoping his tank destroyer friends behind him will help him out and get some shots in. You kind of got to be up on the hill, closer to the out of bounds line if you're going to shoot too far down this. If you're way down in the valley, they kind of have to commit just because of the way the little hills and ridges work. So if you're too close to the road, the shots aren't quite as good. But if you go up on the hill, like directly behind where Bob set up here, you're a lot more exposed and you're susceptible to being spotted by counter spots. So we're going to find that Bob's up against the cap for much of this game. The enemy team kind of went right to it, and somebody sits in there. Now the nice thing is on encounter is it takes forever. So here Bob's kind of, I think, feeling the crunch of the time a little bit. He's going to get some shots out, which it's tough. It's tough right now. There's still a fair bit of unspotted enemy. So yeah, there you go. There's a tank they don't really want to sit in front of. But Bob does a really good job here of using the camo mechanic correctly, where he's shooting back through the bushes and spotting when he goes into them. Camo Net snaps up. You can see there that lights somebody up. His team isn't really able to get much support fire here because their angles are just a little low. They really only have a part of his turret there. Another thing that I'll say is we're kind of waiting for this game. So we reset Bob's team, I should say, reset the cap there. Another thing I'll say with the E25 that's kind of unique is actually the fairly limited, so it's really super high DPM, but it's really limited ammunition capacity. So I actually don't take any high explosive shells on this. It's just, especially with the high explosive changes, I feel like you're better off penetrating a shell. It reloads so quick anyway, than a half penetrating HE shell, which it doesn't actually do that much more damage than the standard AP and APCR. So I take 30 and 30 on this tank with 0 HE shells. So this is, yeah, Bob theoretically This is getting a little tight for range. 340. It's probably far enough for him to get spotted, but he could have made that more likely not to get spotted had he held his fire until his camo net was activated. So there's a couple times where he doesn't quite wait for the camo net to be activated. The difference is 11% if it's not activated when he fires versus 23% when he fires. So 23% camo value is crazy, right? So if they have 400 base view range, which most tanks don't, then he won't be spotted until 300. But if it's 11, then if they have 400, if it's 11% when he's not had his camo net activated, then the base camo, or the camo when firing, is only 11%. So at 400 base view range, you would see him at 360 meters. So it's a fairly large difference. So at this point in the game, it stagnates again. The enemy continues to pressure the cap, and Bob's team gets guys on the cap. The problem is they've also won the hill, so it's going to be tricky over there. Slightly critical suggestion here would be that pretty soon Bob's just going to have to take this flank into his own hands and try to win it. Otherwise, he's not going to be able to affect the game. I believe the Artie gets some good resets there. I'm not even sure. I guess it's the Panzer that got the kill. But I think the Artie gets some really key resets here in a little bit. So now it's only the Panzer 4H that's not spotted on the enemy team. So I think and the Artie of course, but I think any time now, you kind of are starting to know where the enemy are, and Bob, I think, is feeling this too. He's obviously getting some shots. That can be a really, so that tree blocks you kind of from getting spotted from the middle where that 34M was. But if he had backed up a little further, he would have probably been spotted by the 34M in the middle. And that guy's a one shot, and we know that the T25 took some shots. We know that the M10 that he was just shooting took some shots as well. So he's got some guys that he knows are on partial health, and they've been able to manage. They've been managing to dig out. So there's the 25-2 way over there. So now if you look at the map, this is where I would start to get a little more aggressive. I think when you have a pretty good sense of where their guys are. So that's what Bob does here. He'll attack the 35M. This was a one shot. And then he does a pretty good job here wiggling for Artie, so he doesn't get drilled. Of course they're shooting at him, but that's useful because he saw the direction it came from, so he knows he's going to be on at least one on the back line there. I think he waited. Yeah, see, it's hard to know if he wasn't when you're not spotted in this game. I think he was pretty close, but there's obviously one incoming shot. To me, that looked like it came from the back line, but it's hard to say. And now here again, I think I'd be, the cap's at 15 seconds and your team is like nowhere near. I think I'd be just like all out aggressive. And then if you're not right there, that would have been a perfect example. If he should have waited until that tank was behind the bush, that it was just nearly behind before he shot. I'm going to actually rewind it just for a second so it's apparent what I mean. Is if he waits till it's behind the bush, there's another quarter of a second, then he won't be spotted there when he shoots. So that's being a little bit critical, but and it's counter to what I was saying because I was just suggesting that he becomes more aggressive here. So I mean, it's a fine point, a small detail. So he knows there's an Artie back here. I don't know what the best way to do this is. I feel like driving right up next to him, maybe, especially if this one looks like he's not looking at him. But I like the way that he does keep moving. And obviously made that other Artie miss or whatever, just shot at him. A little bit lucky with the bounce there, although this tank has pretty good slope. And that was a small caliber gun, so 110 potential damage blocks, so we just have to keep that in mind. Now that the game's reset, he's got a little more time here to work with. Right here's another example where I think if he waited just another second to activate the camo net, I don't think he would have been spotted. I guess maybe he wasn't spotted there, but Already has bad view range. That's again a fine point of can you save yourself a spot? Because this tank relies on not being spotted, right? So he's alone now. It's 4. Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I don't know. If you attack him, you try to swerve, try to give him the miss, and then you shoot. I don't know. It's tough to say. I do like here too how he's not risking his tank. You know, if he was in a hurry, he would have just driven right over there, but he waited until his camo got reset. Now he's free across. You could try setting up on top of that bridge, closer to where the train is, closer to the cap, and trying to spot him from there. But ultimately the hill is where he decides to go, which is also a great play because this is a pretty good overview with a few bushes, and it allows you to, should allow him to get decent angles and reset. Now there's a lot of buildings in this, so I've done this before, not being able to find them, and had to go down the hill to reset cap. Again, fine play here. I like using distance. I like that idea. Wasn't able to spot anybody, so he's got to go to the next bush. Got 20 seconds now. I'd probably preload APCR because this is going to be a pressure shot. Basically everything here is going to be a pressure shot. So perfect. He sees them all. Tries to get camoed up. He could wait for his camo net here. I would suggest he does next time. He does get spotted, but I do like how he took 2 shots. I probably wouldn't have taken 3. I probably would take the kill. That's the correct thing. Get rid of a tank, and then reset the 150, and then back down off the hill. And that would have probably saved him from getting hit there once, because he would have reset 2 tanks. Here's the KV3. Again, he's got a lot of time as far as the cap is concerned, so I really like that play. The KV3 looks like he's going to come up on the hill, so he has to be aware of that. Now the question is, okay, can I get some more resets before the KV3 gets here? Should I relocate? Should I do the oop-de-oop and drive all the way around the map and let the KV3 take the hill and go play close quarters with the tanks and cap? I think any of those plays would be fine. I think staying on the hill is fine. You can see how many buildings are in the way there where he's not able to spot, so the KV3's there. I also think this is a good play to shoot this guy, as he's not, what's been the KV3 that spotted there? He's easier to kill than the 150, so when you're outnumbered, eliminating the easy kills is really important. Even though it's saving a more difficult kill for later, then you at least know what you have to deal with, and it gets rid of the outnumbered scenario. So I thought it was really good to just focus down the more lightly armored tank first. I also like the idea of, okay, how am I going to deal with this KV3 Bob? I was obviously trying to figure this out as he goes. The 150 is not a threat right now, really, as long as you don't get shot by exposing yourself to some funny angle. So I think he's at risk for it right there. The KV3 is coming up the hill and spotted him. He had a little bit of tunnel vision there. But now he's got to figure out how to deal with this KV3, so you really have to shoot the flat part above the upper plate right there. He's getting green. So those two are a little low. Now he's got it. You could go lower plate or that mid plate now. And this is pretty crazy. So I believe that the shot happened after the ram. So the ram, KV3, yeah, be careful if you get shot there too. The KV3 rammed himself on Bob to death there, basically. Somehow survives with 7, but did bounce 2 shots there, so those are pressure shots he needed to hit. Now this one, same story. This T150 is really not it's pretty blind. He probably could have waited for his camo net to set up before firing there, which is something that I've been critical of in this replay. And then it's the question of, should I relocate to try to get a better angle on this? Is this guy gonna blind fire me, which he does and misses, and somehow he finds a way to connect that last shot there and get the win. Pretty crazy, and that was his 9th kill. He has 4,000 damage. Really, really good game for any tier 7 tank. He clearly carried at the end there, and he did a lot of really good things. So I guess my nitpicking is just that. It's nitpicking. It's the little, okay, how would I think about playing this tank in these situations? And I think that the couple small things that he could have done better were waiting for the Kamina to activate a couple of those times, and then, you know, pressuring the opposite flank, where he first went to when the timer started running down, which ultimately he did, and I don't think he lost that much time because of it. And I guess he was clearly thinking about the same things as I was thinking about them as well. So yeah, it was a really good game. I'm not sure um, if he would have got much more out of it if he would have done those little things differently. So he did a really nice job. It was a good game.